We're building an operable wall sliding partition. This one is a 5 panel, which means there will be 6 boxes. There are always 1 extra box to the number of panels there are because there's an end panel. So the first thing we do is we start with number 1 and open box number 1. It will be labelled panel 1. And we lay it down on its side. There are 2 sides to panel 1. There will be one which will be labelled in green in this case, and on the other side it will say panel 1 as well, but will be a different colour, orange in this case. Then we follow that exact same process for panel 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we get 2 out of the box and we lay it on top here and we line it up as perfectly as we can. The symmetry is important in assembly. As you can see here, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of the same colour on that side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in the same colour on this side. Once you've stacked all panels, make sure they are aligned and square. Now that we've got all of our panels together, we're now going to join them using our sliders. As you'll notice, these are in a hook shape, so we hook over one panel and then we screw into the holes that are already pre-drilled for us. And we just come 2 threads out just to give it enough room to slide. Let's start with panel 1 and 2. My hook goes over panel 1 and then I screw in to panel 2 into the holes that are already pre-drilled for us. I do exactly the same for panel 2 and 3. Exactly the same for panel 3 and 4. And exactly the same for panel 4 and 5. Now we're going to the other side of the partition, still at the top. And what we're doing is exactly the same thing. We are lining up the screws with the pre-drilled holes that are there. You'll notice that it's in reverse. The hook is going over the top panel and the screws are in the bottom of the 2 panels. So I'm screwing into panel 1 now. But you can't go wrong if you simply line the screws up with the holes that are there. Okay. Just making sure when we screw these in, we go all the way in and we come out 3 turns just so we can see 2 threads at the back just to allow the sliding mechanism to move. Final one at the top. And now as you can see, we've put all of the sliders in the top of the partition. Now it's time to go to the bottom. Now that we're at the bottom, you'll see that the wheels are here and we're just going to repeat exactly the same process to join the panels with the sliders as we did at the top. Again, the guiding principle here is line the screws up with the holes, which is where we'll put that. Same thing here. And we'll screw all of those off exactly like that. And then we'll come on over to the other side. I'm doing exactly the same thing on this side. Again, it's going to be in reverse, which you'll notice while you're doing it, but same guiding principle. Line the screws up with the pre-drilled holes and you can't go wrong. And screw it off there. Before we get the end panel ready and get the partition ready to go upright, the last things that we just sanity check is that we've got our numbering right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from bottom to top. The colours are right on each side, and that all of our sliding mechanisms are in. Now unbox your end panel, and this is the one that will sit perpendicular to your last panel for stability. When you take it out of the box, you'll notice at the top and the bottom you have 2 sliders that go either side. So we want to take these bolts out. This is your end panel bracket. You'll have 2 of those in there. You are putting them in position. Notice there's a black line that marks the center of the panel, and there's a black line here that marks the center of the bracket. So we are simply lining those two up. Now you can just get your screws a little bit in if you like. Just 1 or 2 turns to start with, because we're going to then we've still got a bit of movement to make sure that we're perfectly aligned. And you can see we can move a bit until we're perfectly aligned, and once we're happy, we screw that off. But all that's measured for you. You're simply, in basic terms, you're taking out the bolts, putting the bracket in position and putting them back in again. Now we're going to turn it over because I just want to show you how this is now going to attach to the main panel. You'll see here you've got 2 bolts that are quite loose. Make sure they are loose enough not to be protruding on the other side. You need full clearance because this is going to slide into your panel 5. And then once we're in there, this is what's going to secure it for us. So this is too far to start with. Just have it in position and a bit loose like that to start with. So we can easily slide this into the top panel without anything protruding, and then we will tighten it off once we're in position. But in simple terms, this is going to go into our end panel, our last panel on the partition, which we'll show you now. Okay, now we're attaching the wall brackets. These are already made the right size for what you're trying to do. I don't have a wall, all I've got is a beam and this wood, so I'm going to use this as my wall, and we're going to attach the bracket here like that. So as you can see, there is 1 hole. This is what's going to connect it to our main panel, and then I've got 5 holes there for fixing into the stud. As long as that's pushed down, if you are on a spongy surface or carpet, make sure that you have weight down, as much weight as you can put on there, equivalent to 40 or 50 kilos, and then mark your spots as to where to drill. Bear in mind that this is not weight bearing, this is only stopping lateral movement within the partition. We've put 5 holes in there and I'm using it as an example. Look, if you get to 2 or 3 of them with a strong hold into the stud, you will be okay. Now that our operable wall is fully built and we've attached the bottom bracket, the easiest way is to put the top bracket in, which is also included, into the top wall bracket, lining it up with the hole and tightening it up again, which is obviously at the end where there are no wheels. Then we're going to get it upright. We're going to mark our spot, disconnect it from the partition. We're going to drill it off and then put it back into position. So I'll show you how we do that step by step. We can just lift and roll it into this position, onto its back here. Try not to slide. Let's wheel over there. So remember, you don't have a wheel, so the main thing here is don't slide it out too far from panel 2 so that they stay at the same height. That feels right there to me. That's good levels. Now that I've attached the bottom, I can see where I want my top in position. I can now just undo that screw. Once you've marked the top bracket, move the wall away and drill it in. It won't take you long and it's a lot easier. Move the wall away, drill it into position, and then as you move the wall back in, the top bracket will fit and the bottom bracket will fit straight into the wall mounts. Okay, now I'm going to put the end panel on, so I'm just going to move it into position. I'm going to make sure my brackets are facing the wall because they're going to slide straight into the top and the bottom track. Exactly as is. Before I tighten it, I make sure that the other guys have slid the bottom one all the way into the track. Now that both are in position, I just make sure they're in as tight as they can go and simply tightening up these bolts. These are the bolts that were already in position, and you'll remember earlier we made sure they weren't too over tightened so they could slide in the tracking system well enough. But now that we have that, our operable wall is ready to use. Okay, now that we're fixed to the wall and we've got our end panel on, we're ready to go. I'll do one other thing. We custom build to any height that you like. This is 2.6 metre high sliding, and this is a 3.75 metre high articulating hinge. That's the tallest unit we do.